What if history got it wrong? Like, big time wrong. Some folks believe Hitler didn't die in that Berlin bunker, but pulled a Houdini and fled to South America. Yeah, for real. Let's talk about the so-called proof people swear by, and why this theory refuses to stay buried. Final days. Let's rewind to early 1945. Nazi Germany was coming apart faster than a knockoff IKEA chair. The Soviets were rolling in from the east, the Americans were pushing from the west, and Berlin was caught in the middle like a badly made sandwich. Hitler, sensing the end, ducked into a concrete cave known as the Führer bunker on January 16th. Inside the bunker, things took a strange turn. The Nazis were losing badly, but Hitler kept barking orders like the war wasn't already a disaster. He even told a top SS officer, Felix Steiner, to counterattack the Soviets. Spoiler alert, Steiner did not do that. When Hitler found out, he had a full-blown meltdown and finally admitted what everyone else already knew. The war was over. Still, he said he'd stay in Berlin, then asked his doctor how to off himself. Classy. The guy even got married in the middle of this chaos. That's right, he tied the knot with Eva Braun in a bunker while the Red Army was about a mile away. Hours later, he was dictating his will and trash-talking his top people for betraying it. By late April, Berlin's communication systems were toast. Hitler's allies were selling him out left and right, and his paranoia was off the charts. When he found out Mussolini'd been strung up by angry Italians, he swore he wouldn't go out the same way. What history has to say. April 30th, 1945. The war was basically over. Berlin was in ruins, and the Soviets were knocking loudly. Inside a reinforced basement beneath the Reich Chancellery, Adolf Hitler was supposedly living out his final hours. According to official reports, he took cyanide and then shot himself in the head. But let's be real, some folks never bought that story. Here's what's known. That afternoon, Hitler and Eva Braun locked themselves in a private room. Moments later, staff claimed they heard a gunshot. When they entered, they allegedly found the two lifeless. Eva from poison, Hitler from a bullet. His body was quickly wrapped, dragged outside, soaked in gasoline, and torched in the garden as bombs fell around him. Seems neat and tidy, right? Too tidy, maybe. The remains reduced to ash, with only dental fragments surviving. The Soviets kept those bits under wraps and were weirdly vague about what they'd found. One day they claimed it was cyanide. The next, they said he escaped. Even Stalin got in on the confusion, tossing out locations like Spain or Argentina. The Soviets weren't trying to solve a mystery, they were feeding one. Meanwhile, Hitler's supposed jawbone sat in a secret Russian archive until the 1970s. By then, theories had taken on a life of their own. Secret tunnels, body doubles, even underwater U-boats to South America. Later, forensic teams confirmed the teeth matched Hitler's. But the messy way the Soviets handled it, and their silence for decades, left enough cracks in the story for conspiracy fans to slide through. Declassification of CIA files changes everything. Picture this. It's 1955. Rock and roll is blowing up, Eisenhower's in the White House, and the CIA is still hunting Adolf Hitler like he skipped out on a dinner. And recently unsealed intel files show that U.S. operatives weren't totally convinced the infamous dictator died in that Berlin bunker. In fact, some agents were actively chasing whispers that Hitler bailed out of Europe and set up shop in South America. The documents reveal something wild. Well into the 1950s, reports kept rolling in about a mysterious man living in Argentina, then later Colombia, who matched Hitler's description a little too well. We're talking fake names, hush-hush compounds, and shady allies helping him stay under the radar. Even more mind-blowing, a historian named Abel Basti claims Hitler actually died in Paraguay in 1971. He believes there was a secret agreement that allowed certain Nazi figures, Hitler included, to flee the wreckage of Germany and avoid Soviet capture. Allegedly, some of those very same folks ended up working against the USSR in the early Cold War era. Sounds like a Hollywood script, right? But with so many high-ranking Nazis confirmed to have escaped to South America, including Eichmann and Mengele, it's no wonder this theory has teeth. Officially, Hitler's death was a bunker suicide. But unofficially, these files suggest the US government wasn't completely sure and kept following the trail for years. So why were they still chasing ghosts a decade later? And who might have been helping Hitler disappear? A long road to Colombia. Okay, let's just rip off the Band-Aid. What if the mustache didn't die in that Berlin bunker? Turns out, US intelligence wasn't so sure Hitler cashed out in 1945. For over a decade, CIA and FBI agents kept tabs on leads suggesting he escaped. First to Argentina, then Colombia. Not a movie plot, a real operation. The trail started in a small Argentinian town called La Falda. There was this hotel owned by a wealthy couple who were basically Nazi superfans. These folks didn't just root for the home team, they were friends with Hitler and helped fund his propaganda machine. US intel believed if Hitler ever ran, this cozy hideaway would have been on his itinerary. Then things got even more bizarre. Fast forward to 1954. A photo appears in Colombia featuring a man named Adolf Schrittlemeyer sitting on a beach next to a man named Philip Citroen, a former SS officer. Citroen claimed he met with the man regularly and insisted that it was none other than Hitler himself. The kicker? He told his contact that Hitler couldn't be prosecuted anymore because too much time had passed. Like war crimes have a statute of limitations now? The CIA didn't just laugh it off. Nope. They kept digging. In 1955, agents were cleared to reach out to another source who might know where this so-called Schrittlemeyer went next. Some operatives weren't buying it, but they kept the case open anyway. Meanwhile, Argentina has its own secrets. Earlier this year, their government announced it's unlocking files tied to post-war Nazi fugitives. That could reveal even more about how top officials, including monsters like Eichmann and Mengele, found safety down south through elaborate escape networks. So, if Hitler used those same routes, it wouldn't be out of left field. And let's be honest, if someone did want to disappear, growing out the stash might not be the best idea. Just saying. Sure, most historians stick to the he died in the bunker version, but these records make one thing clear. The US government seriously considered the idea that Hitler got away, even spent years in taxpayer dollars chasing rumors that wouldn't die. With Argentina's archives about to drop, we might finally get some clarity, or just more questions. Either way, the mystery isn't over. Counter-arguments. For decades, whispers of Adolf Hitler sipping yerba mate in Argentina or hiding out in a secret Antarctic fortress have fueled fringe theories and YouTube rabbit holes. But a deep dive into forensic records, eyewitness testimony, and a jaw-dropping dental exam has all but slammed the hatch shut on these theories. Multiple independent investigations, from British intelligence officers to French scientists, point to a single grim conclusion. Hitler perished in his Berlin bunker in April 1945. The bodies of evidence, pun very intended, include first-hand accounts from close aides like Otto Gunch and Heinz Ling, reports kept classified until the Soviet Union's collapse, and perhaps the most conclusive artifact of all, his teeth. In 2018, French forensic pathologist Philippe Charlier and his team examined dental remains displayed in Moscow. Their findings were startling in their precision. The false teeth bore signs of cyanide exposure and matched records precisely. No meat fibers were found either, which was consistent with the dictator's vegetarian lifestyle. A skull fragment with a bullet hole on the left side added further weight. Still not convinced? Consider the motives. Historians like Professor Richard Evans argue that Hitler was too driven and delusional to fade quietly into obscurity. And as for Eva Braun, famously camera-happy, there's not a single post-war image or credible sighting. Between hard science and airtight witness accounts, the facts are stacking up faster than a conspiracy theorist YouTube playlist. The verdict: Hitler died in Berlin, not Buenos Aires. No jungle hideout, no moon base, just the final act of a failed empire, buried in shallow ground. While the evidence overwhelmingly points to Hitler's death in 1945, the idea that he vanished into the shadows of South America still grips imaginations. Eyewitness claims, mysterious sightings, and declassified documents keep the theory alive for some. Could the story be more complex than we think? That's the mystery that fuels curiosity. If you're intrigued by hidden history, wild conspiracies, and the line between truth and legend, hit that like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. What do you believe? Did Hitler perish in the bunker ashes or jungle exile? The debate isn't over yet.